Be strong.
I'm stuck. While I'm waiting, I should buy a free travel ticket. After saying that, he immediately pressed the buy button. After he pressed it, the system panel appeared. Chiron's learning rate added 3.1% over 100%, then Siddhartha Gautama's learning process added 2%, and finally Merlin's also added 3.1%. Kim SeoJoon doubted, why did he do that? Then realized, it seems that even if I don't buy a pass, the speed of the learning process will still increase. He looked at the speed of Chiron's learning process. At this moment he realized something again. Wait, with this. Before you could finish speaking, a notification appeared, a mandatory introductory course for superior combat skills. The professor was Chiron. You completed the class and learned the transformation spell A. Suddenly, his body had a stream of air or some kind of power flying around him. He happily opened his mouth and smiled, continuously oohing and ahhing. It was truly crazy. Male number 9 raised his arms and legs, gesturing like a robot. After raising his leg, he suddenly stopped and fainted. As soon as the joy came, it ran away like a shooting star. His face had just bloomed like a flower, but now it's fading like a chrysanthemum. He thought, when I finish Hangvu's class, I can feel it. Platinum power flows through the body, but this time there's nothing like that. According to martial arts stories, it's like twisting bones and rearranging them, or cleansing impurities from the body, brother. Scratching my head, it seems like everything in a novel is only in a novel, a bit of a pity, but since I've finished it, I'm sure. Before he could finish his sentence, Kim SeoJoon felt an unusual killing intent behind his back. He turned around, but the thing had quickly disappeared. Kim SeoJoon looked around cautiously. What was that? Suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. As if a cold blade was pressed against my neck, suddenly a strange voice rang out, unbelievable, even though I saw it with my own eyes. How could you detect my presence? It seems like you didn't. See my form. Kim SeoJoon held a weapon in his hand, ready to fight that thing at any moment. The voice rang out again. Was it an innate sense? What a surprise. No need to worry, I'm not here to kill you. Kim SeoJoon breaking out in a cold sweat. Who are you? The other person replied, you will definitely become a difficult opponent for that kid. After the other person finished speaking, dim blue smoke flew around his feet. That kid, a tough opponent. Thinking back to what that person just said, he also wondered, oh maybe. Are you the Black Saint? That's right. As soon as Kim SeoJoon turned around, he saw the old man Black Saint standing with his hands behind his back next to the wall with an amazing murderous aura. This man is a rare talent in assassination and is a master of stealth. The Black Saint stands beside Kim SeoJoon, but he just pointed the weapon and I don't know where. That's right. Black Saint spoke to Kim with a scarred face. SeoJoon, it seems like you're learning quickly. But no matter how hard I try to think, I couldn't believe that you could detect my presence. Kim SeoJoon's face showed emotions with a complicated half smile and half not smile. He thought, I'm wondering too. I wonder, maybe it's because of the transformation technique that the center Chiron just taught me. Well, if that's true, then it's more similar to superhuman senses than metamorphosis. It's just a simple body. Maybe this technique has some additional abilities as well. Looks like I'll have to check with the last paragraph of the lecture. Kim SeoJoon opened the bag and put the weapon inside. He turned to ask him. He came to find me because Minhyul told him right now. The Black Saint replied indifferently. Let's just say so. Kim SeoJoon frowned. Just like me thinking, it was he who deliberately left the holy text. Black Saint clicked his tongue. Yes, didn't that kid tell you? Tell others what I left behind? The holy text does not bring any benefit to it. Kim SeoJoon waved his hand, shook his head, his expression blank. When Minhyul said I don't even know he's the Black Saint, not only that, it's not even true. Realized that he was the one who deliberately left the holy text behind. After listening to you, old man the Black Saint immediately bristled and looked annoyed. What, that brat? Kim SeoJoon pointed his finger at the sky for what he was doing. He said, apparently Minhyul is also on her way here. She'll probably arrive soon, so why not, if you don't see him, say hello. The old man still clasped his hands behind his back. He said, name, are you coming here? Oh my, it seems I'm not as free as I thought. Kim SeoJoon was confused and asked him again, what was it? He wasn't as free as he thought anyway. The Black Saint also glanced at him and said, if I wanted to, I would have met that brat. It's been a long time, but right now I can't see it. I can't, right now first, that's why I came to see you. There's not much time left, so let's get straight to the point. Hey kid, you're a bit involved with the Church of Justice, right? No? Kim SeoJoon still doesn't understand. What did he want to say? A big question mark appeared on his face. He replied, no, I don't have it. It has nothing to do with any church or something. Well, I've only met Mr. Kalia last time, if I remember correctly. The Black Saint muttered, Kalia, the apostle of Germany Keat Tin, then tell me, I understand, that's how it happened. Because there is a period of time that we trace the Justice Church. Kim SeoJoon listened attentively. The Justice Church, why? The Black Saint bowed his head, his face becoming serious. He frowned and said, because I don't trust those animals. The Black Saint began to tell, most of the humans all over the world view the Church of Justice as the heroes of humanity, those who put an end to the cataclysm, but not just eyes what you see and hear is true, you must know about the great beast Berserk as being hunted by the Justice Society, right? Kim SeoJoon stared at him, not missing a single sentence. But still couldn't understand, he asked, yes, but why did you suddenly mention it? What's that? Black Saint was speechless when he heard that, not knowing what to say. He didn't bother to answer my questions anymore but continued seriously, that day, Berserk was not defeated at all. Berserk, a terrible monster, people often refer to it as the Second Great Flood, and at the same time, the very moment the Great Sound and the 7 apostles chased it was also the moment of the Great Storm. The flood is over, Kim SeoJoon thought, the monster was not defeated, he was trying. What do I know? The Black Saint said, that monster was not sick at all. Kill. Wouldn't that be very strange, if the church successfully hunted it down, so its body must be found here, that's it, so why aren't there any verification pictures or anything? Documentary film, no matter how chaotic the cataclysm was at that time. Moreover, the fact that there is no evidence left is still unreasonable. Berserk beast simply suddenly disappeared. After hearing him say this sentence, Kim SeoJoon's face twitched and moved, forming wrinkles ugly. He shouted, wait, if the church justice couldn't hunt Berserk, so why are they still said to have saving humanity? Old man Black Saint was also annoyed by this question. Say, because they must have done something to the monster, or say rather, the macro did something to the monster Berserk, but it didn't die. Old man Black Saint suddenly turned on his heel and said next, at first we just thought it was just a vague and baseless hypothesis, only myself, but after a few years, based on some clear incidents, I was certain, no, that can't even be called an accident. The Black Saint turned around and left, not bothering looked at him once, but his mouth kept talking. Have you ever wondered why is the position of Apostle of Chastity vacant? I have heard it was the Church of Justice that declared that the Apostle of Chastity had died due to old age. Kim SeoJoon looked at the back of the old man. Well, or maybe, grandfather, I also understand what you mean, the Black Saint said, precisely, an Apostle of Chastity suddenly disappeared, like I said, suddenly, just like the way the great monster did Berserk disappeared. The old man laughed like he wasn't laughing. To die for old age is all a fantasy. The 77 apostles are a group of people who are always on the go together a long time ago, but alone as an Apostle of Chastity died of old age. Do you think that's logical? Kim SeoJoon remained silent and said nothing. Black Saint continued, I see something. There are no small similarities between these two disappearances. To reveal the truth of in these two cases, I have always followed the footsteps of the Church of Justice and the results were obtained. I concluded two things. First, that group of animalistic justice churches tried to take my life, me for daring to investigate them. And secondly, the new 10-star dungeon conquest event. What happened recently was just a plot by the Justice Church, and you are the reason. As for the reason behind this conspiracy, Kim SeoJoon was bewildered, not understanding why. He intended to run closer to the Black Saint but stopped. Okay, just stand still and ask him, what, why the Church of Justice? The Black Saint still refusing to turn around and look at him, he replied, I don't know the reason exactly what it is, but surely the Justice Church has their eyes on you. Kim SeoJoon asked, why did you tell me all these things? Hey, at this moment he turned around and glanced at me, with no intention of hiding it, should say, because I have a request to ask of you. Please take care of my child for me there, Black Saint said while turning around completely. You brat, you mean Minule, the Black Saint. I raised my hand and coughed lightly. Yes, if I could have raised the spear myself. Educated. However, as long as the Church of Justice is still out there, it's okay. It's impossible for me to raise the boy myself. The Justice Church has a method, especially in observing their targets, even though we don't know exactly whatever the method is, but when their target acts, they can. Seeing the entire result of that action, that was also the reason for those animals. Called observation. I am one of the targets of the animals. That object is observed most closely, as is anyone who contacts or is related to us. Was placed on a mark, so that's why you have to become a bridge between us. And that kid. Kim SeoJoon frowned, opened his mouth and pointed at his face, unable to believe it. Okay, hey wait, that means you just left a mark on me. Huh? Black Saint did not answer but said you are the only exception. As I mentioned before, The church's justice has been established. Eyes on you, however, like me, they cannot observe you, so give. Even if you and I met, those animals wouldn't be able to feel anything different. At the same time, if I act through you as an intermediary, those people will criticize, thinking that it was you who did it, not me. Kim SeoJoon scratched his head, ignoring the church's justice. Can't observe the Black Saint, then why can't the Church of Justice either observe me? The Black Saint seriously and confidently answered no. He didn't flinch. I don't know. It made his face look like he was helpless when he saw a girl wearing a bikini. Word drought. Black Saint suddenly walked closer to him, walking as he walked. Say, we can escape their observation because we can enter a state. Hi does not exist, but why can you escape? So can I. Don't know, Kim SeoJoon. Hearing him say that, I secretly thought, this is no different from a festival asking where each other is. He raised his hand to rub his chin and continued to ponder. Maybe this is somehow related to the Ultimate Academy reason. Do you have any information about yourself? While I was thinking, I wondered. Saint reached into his coat, groping for something. Now, I don't have much left. More time. He pulled out a book of recipes that wasn't too thick. I'll give it to Kim SeoJoon. The old man said, please hand this to that brat for me. Currently we are racing against time. So I can only record the knife throwing technique and the stealth technique. This will be more detailed. Kim SeoJoon has one hand on her hip and the other holding a book. I don't know where it is based. That you dare to trust me with something like this. Old man Black Saint said, the only thing above. In this life, I don't interfere. That's because you guys don't know how to keep your word. Kim SeoJoon held the book in front of the two people, thinking. Belly, or in other words, don't be foolish or do as I dare. The Black Saint took the book from his hand. The end. This is a bit too much as compensation, but just take it. Is another technique recorded by me, it will. Useful for you. The old man had just finished speaking when he interjected, I don't need this. He pouted and puffed a few times, instead of giving it. If I have this book, you have it. Can you give me another one? After hearing this, old man Black Saint lost his mind. A yellow question mark appeared in his head. He thought to himself, this brat, if this as a technique given to me by the Black Saint himself, it is a priceless treasure. Could make even an S-rank hunter blind and make him lose his mind. Running here with all four legs, begging to be accepted, is it possible that this is the case? I don't know. Black Saint frowned and put the secret book back in his shirt. He asked, so what do you mean by something else? Kim SeoJoon scratched his head, nothing special. Where are you? But have you ever heard of support fees? Have you raised children yet? As he spoke, he showed a cunning expression. His hand made an upside-down image, leaving this old man with gray hair bewildered and not understanding. What? A lot of things appeared in the old man's mind right now. Question, did I hear correctly? Money, it can't be that this guy has a thick skin. How can you ask for money openly to your face, especially asking for money from one of the five? Sir, does he really love money more than his holy magic? Kim SeoJoon stood up straight and stared at him, eye to eye, face to face. Face to face, as a real man who does not indulge in material things, he said, no. If you give money, don't ask for help. Black Saint looked at him and could only scream in his heart. Tears flow endlessly like the path of your love to your crush. I thought to myself, that guy is telling the truth, he really has the audacity to take my money, The Black Saint helplessly closed his eyes and nose. Asked, how much? The face of the man who did not indulge in material things immediately brightened up. He grinned and said, now that you've looked it up, your promotion price is a bit steep. Just $3 million. He probably woke up and forgot his integrity. In the dream, Kim SeoJoon teased him and bared his fangs and claws, screaming loudly. Up, you psycho bitch, $3 million. Kim SeoJoon quickly raised his hand, just missing water to cover his throat. Come on, what kind of person is that rude? He said, calm down, don't get angry, listen. I'll explain first. Now is the time to have fun. SeoJoon, drop the beat. Kim SeoJoon didn't know when to get the book. The old man put the book in his chest, then lifted it up and said, honestly, here it is. Is this the only thing I can do, according to Mr. Black Saint? This can only be accomplished by someone who cannot be observed by the Church of Justice. The Black Saint still couldn't help but feel dirty. Answer, then yes, exactly. Kim SeoJoon raised his finger and pointed again. Then shook his head, his mouth fluttered, He chattered a lot, not to mention that he was right. They are star fruit brothers with Minhyul, think about it, naturally when there are no clouds and blue sky. Oh no, some random guy jumped out and threw the entire recipe book in the kid's face. This is the legacy your teacher left for you, so think about it. Let's see if the boy will jump for joy and then sing "Oh my God, thank you." No, or he'll think this guy is crazy. The Black Saint tilted his head and looked at him helplessly. Yes. Well, of course the first time he still accepts it, but the second or third time is fine. How about more, or do you only intend to help the boy once? Then leave it alone. Kim SeoJoon jumped again and pounced on his mouth, pointing. Even if he is your disciple, not to mention he is also the disciple who saved you. Black Saint's network too. The Black Saint was scared and backed away, talking. There, Kim SeoJoon didn't give him a chance to explain but continued to scold him. If you see Minhyul with your own eyes, you will immediately realize that she doesn't like it. Being held back by anything, if you let it go, it's 1,000,000,000%. That he crawled up the mountain to practice on his own. If that's true, then what do you think, mister? The old man opened his mouth, but before he could finish the word. Then Kim SeoJoon continued to talk and talk. Talk nonstop, and most importantly, if I help you then it won't be. Do I also put myself in danger? You yourself said if you act through me, then I will be the one doing it. No. It's you, isn't it, Mr. Black Saint, but that's not the same thing. The Church of Justice will look at the results of my actions and then the Church will start to doubt me more, right? Hak Tan crossed his arms and closed his eyes and nose. Say nothing and pretend to think. Kim SeoJoon was filled with water up to his mouth. Pointing and shouting, so I believe that I am worthy. Receive at least $3 million. The old man gave in and said, okay, I understand. Okay, so, $3 million is enough, right? Kim Se-hoon was so happy, he immediately replied. That's right, in my heart I was thinking, why did he accept so quickly? I know that's funny. He already has 10 million, oh well, if you ask him for too much money, he'll grab a knife and stab you. Suffering, ahihi. He continued, okay, let's transfer the money. You immediately, well just to be sure, you don't plan to ask for 3 million every month, brother. Replied honestly, without asking, I'm not that despicable. Kim SeoJoon's eyes sparkled and sparkled, flickering and flickering. Same cute, raised 3 fingers and puffed his cheeks and said, okay, including tax and. The relevant financial laws are still only 3 million, right? Count everything. The tax remained unchanged at 3 million. He looked at him with helpless eyes, seemingly exhausted. Your sensual nerves are also at a non-existent level. After saying this, he clasped his hands behind his back. Turn around and leave, not forgetting to wave goodbye, the money will be transferred. Under the name of the association will also take care of all the other formalities. So you can use your money freely without having to worry too much, Kim. SeoJoon held the book and looked at him. Are you planning on leaving now? So I have. May I tell Minhyul about you, Mr. Black Saint? He turned around with a cold face. Glanced at him and then slowly disappeared. It doesn't matter, like I said. The Church of Justice cannot observe you, but remember to remind that brat. Do not say a word about our existence or the teacher-disciple relationship between us and it. To anyone else. When he finished speaking, it was time for him to disappear. Disappeared completely into thin air, leaving Kim SeoJoon standing alone. He thought to himself, the Church's justice is here. Eyes on me. Suddenly Minhyul opened the door with a bang, her face smiling widely. I came. Then hey. After listening to Kim SeoJoon from beginning to end, Minhyul's face was as stiff as a cow wearing a hat. He said, so my master is really Black Street. I mentioned a few related things. The Church of Justice, but he was completely stunned about the monk's true identity. Of course, I didn't mention anything about child support fees. Minhyul stood still for 5 seconds, about to turn into a ghost and fly out of the world. Kim SeoJoon said, due to urgent reasons, Mr. Black Saint left, but he did. Please let me send you this back. Having finished speaking, he pulled out the old book. Gave it to him and then gave it to Minhyul to hold. Minhyul bewilderedly held the book. Kim SeoJoon just clasped his hands over his head and turned to leave, whistling as he went. Flute, he thought to himself, now I have completed the request to send the delivered goods and money. It's almost in my pocket, so I'll go buy a new weapon or invest in some cards. Lecture here. Minyul called from behind, "Why are you here?" "Give me this." Kim SeoJoon turned around and said, "Didn't I tell you? The Black Saint asked me to give this to you on his behalf." Minyul is puzzled. "Really, he can? You can hide the book and keep it as your own." Kim SeoJoon was speechless. Throat, he thought to himself, the boy asked why he didn't keep the secret books of the Black Saint and gave it to him. Kim SeoJoon turned around, scratched his face. Because, after saying the word because, he didn't say anything else but thought, "Oh my, what should I answer? Now, what if I say that these secret techniques are useless to me? I despise the Black Saint, but that doesn't mean I'll be able to find the academy. Supreme." He frowned, trying to rack his brain to think. In the end, I couldn't think of anything, so I pretend to be stupid, look away, never mind, I'm doing it because. Minyul moved her lips as if she wanted to say something. After he made up his mind, he finally said, "I decided." Decided what? Minyul's eyes sparkled and sparkled. "Golden light," he said, "I want to join the Hunter Academy with you." Kim SeoJoon looked at him with complicated, half-open eyes. As for Minyul, she made up her mind and started. "Always from today, I'm so touched, in my heart I can't help but admire him. Certainly a good person." Kim SeoJoon was also hit by the glare of the light. His vision blurred, he had to raise his hand to cover his face, constantly opening his eyes and not understanding what was happening. Minyul raised her hand high, agreeing, "Right?" And Kim SeoJoon gasped. "It really makes people misunderstand." Minyul gave a thumbs up, winked handsomely. "In short, I'm planning to enroll in this academy." Ms. Park Seoyeon made the OK sign, happily agreed. She said she didn't mind. To be honest, she was quite happy. Minyul excitedly raised her hands in the air, howling. After that, he was so happy that he hugged Kim SeoJoon. How nice, right? And Kim SeoJoon looked extremely helpless. He pushed the other guy's face away and thought, even Ms. Seoyeon wouldn't mind if Minyul has admission here. At first I felt quite surprised, but this is not bad at all. I will practice with the secret book that the Black Saint gave me, and every time I receive a favor from the Black Saint, I will no need to waste time looking for Minyul anymore. Top ways to hand over the legendary secret book of the Black Saint. Top 1. Step 1. Receive the secret book from the hands of the Black Saint. Step 2. Give it to the innocent Minyul. That's it. Suddenly a thought flashed through his brain. He frowned and thought seriously, wait, I'm sure I'll be able to extort more money from the Black Saint if I continue to hang out with Minyul like this. He will be my goose that lays golden eggs. The more Kim SeoJoon thought about it, the more excited she became. On the inside, she couldn't help but lick her lips until she drooled, but on the outside, she pretended to happily raise her finger to Minyul. "Ha ha ha, you like this a lot, don't you?" "Me too." So, Minyul's speculum squawked a few times, not understanding what he was saying, and Haktan shivered, wondering why something was wrong. "I'll be able to extract a lot of words, dark thoughts haven't even been listed yet." When Ms. Park Seoyeon spoke up, now I think we can participate in the team competition." Her smile. Kim SeoJoon paused for a moment. He turned around and asked her again, "What about team competition?" Yes, there were competitions that students from the same academy participated in. Because there were so many participants, the prizes were much bigger. The word award that she said quickly, secretly and delicately slipped into Kim SeoJoon's ears. "If Mr. SeoJoon and Mr. Minyul cooperate together, I think the two of you can win those competitions." Our honest, simple, non-materialistic 9-year-old male suddenly cast a shadow after hearing this, his eyes shining brightly, lips lacking only the red lipstick of the U50 aunties. "Oh my god, we have to go." Kim SeoJoon looked at Minyul's speculum with expectant eyes, waiting without the slightest bit of hypocrisy. He forced his voice to turn the egg cage upside down. "Just hearing it made my skin goosebumps. Duck skin, dinosaur skin, welcome, Minyul." Minyul was still wearing the speculum, bewilderedly repeating, "Thank you." 3 days later, it's already been 3 days and it won't be 10 years soon. Suddenly, there was a guy with bulging muscles that captivated girls, but his clothing taste was a bit strange. He was probably lifting weights, breathing heavily, and sweating a lot made him look even sexier. Kim SeoJoon on this side doesn't understand why her forehead is full of fatigue. The lion brother placed the dumbbell on top and told Kim SeoJoon to wait for me just a little longer, let me finish this one set. 3 days after Minyul entered school, along with a contest with prizes of up to $1 million and $3 million from the Black Saint, Kim SeoJoon on the contrary was not happy at all but held the phone and looked extremely depressed. Her face's nose was gray and he thought, wow, look at those muscles. $4 million suddenly flew away in just a blink of an eye with just a wave of my hand. At this moment, a notification appeared on the phone. Anyone can achieve 500 T of set 3 with this exercise. The teacher is Hercules. You will receive the Divine Power S after completing the training course. The other table says that the first step to becoming great is to have good footwork skills. You will achieve the Holy Bud S level. As soon as the two notifications appeared, that huge, terrifyingly large barbell pole was placed on the ground. The pole was so heavy that the cement ground cracked, sending tiny pieces of debris flying around. This blonde-haired guy wearing a blue headband was the one who put down that barbell pole. He put his hands on the pole and grinned. "It's nice to meet you." Introducing himself was quite boring, but that's why. "Is our first class. I will try to do it as quickly as possible." He grinned, his yellow eyebrows looked extremely Western, Tibetan. His smile was so bright that it made the girls fall in love with him. Because he was lifting that pole, he was sweating a lot, making him even sexier. "Feel," he said while smiling, "I am Hercules." Hercules, none other than ancient Greek and Roman mythology, is the god of strength and heroes. Hercules grinned and continued, "I know that most of my students usually come here right after completing Chiron's course, let alone if they still haven't completed Chiron's course, if they still don't. Otherwise, I hope you guys complete that course first." The white-bearded old man Chiron, whose last name is, Hercules, is actually a student of Chiron. Hercules raised his right hand and braced himself, his muscles bulging. The mouse in his arm was no longer a normal mouse, but a fossilized dinosaur mouse. His left hand was placed on the dinosaur mouse, smiling and saying, "For a warrior to be able to fight, their body must be put first. Strength, reflexes, speed, all of them need to be trained. In all of those things, what I'm about to teach you next is strength. More precisely, I'm talking about muscle strength." I'm sure there are students right now who are thinking like, "What the heck, doing that will just turn yourself into a slow walking mass of meat. If you get bigger, you'll be slow more. If you get stronger, you will become more sluggish." Then he laughed loudly, "Ha ha, a long breath. Those are just baseless prejudices, completely different from the truth." As he spoke, Hercules' eyes lit up as if there was an electric current inside. His mouth was still smiling and could not be closed. Everything showed Hercules' determination, strength, speed, reflexes, all of them are all formed from the strength of the muscles. After he finished speaking, he tensed up. The more he tensed up, the bigger his muscles became. They were bouncy and round, and the blue veins appeared and looked extremely healthy. Kim SeoJoon looked at him through the phone and couldn't help but gasp, "Heck, I thought he was just flexing his muscles a little, but his muscle mass actually became bigger." Hercules dropped to his knees, assuming a marathon-like position. He said, "Now, look. This speed is as fast as lightning." As he spoke, he ran at super fast speed. Hercules' eyes sparkled brightly. While he was running, he even patted his thigh, continuing, "Come from the lower limb muscles. The strength that can support the whole sky." Hercules is true to the doctrine of saying it can be done. After saying that, he immediately punched the stone ground, and because of that, the ground split into two sides and flew high into the sky. And he just followed the punch and fell. Wherever he placed his hand, the rocks had to run there. Satisfied, Hercules stood up straight and continued to brace himself, coming from the muscles of his upper limbs. This reflex surpasses even one's own instincts and thoughts. This endurance never runs out. They all come from these beautiful muscles that cover the whole body. Hercules talked while doing while showing off. Even Kim SeoJoon was blinded by the dazzling light from his body and had to cover it with his hand. Hercules continued, "You see, everything is achieved through honing muscle mass. You want faster speed and sharper reflexes, then train your muscle mass. Health is the step to become stronger." Kim SeoJoon was so depressed that she was about to lose her temper, thinking to herself, "I don't know if I can become like that in the future." The notification from the phone appears again. The daily task has been assigned, calculating the most suitable exercise for the user. The daily task is to run 30 kilometers, 1,000 sit-ups, 300 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, 150 pull-ups. Kim SeoJoon was not surprised when he saw the announcement. On the contrary, he felt lucky. He said, "I was a bit worried when the lecturer was Hercules, but these exercises are no different from Chiron's. I think I can." Just after saying the word "can," another message appears. The current task will only be considered completed when the student uses a weight of 1 ton or more. The weight will change depending on the student's level. Kim SeoJoon froze. The thing that attracted his attention and also the thing that brought him pain was the 1 ton weight. Male 9 Kim SeoJoon squinted his eyes, smiling in pain, his face clearly showing a few words. "What?" Just to be sure, he rubbed his eyes. Then looking back, it was still those words, "I could only complain." Were they crazy? He is alone here, lonely, No one can understand the feelings of that boy from 12 water stations. Kim SeoJoon jumped up and hit the screen with a thud. That's why the title of this video, anyone can achieve 500 tons of the great trio with this exercise. Is it real? Not a joke. Don't tell me it's an exercise. Foot technique is the same. The old man was so old that his beard was as long as his hair and his eyelashes were as long as a bird's wings. He stroked his beard and said, "When I talk about leg techniques, I'm talking about the movement of the legs in combat when using sword skills. Or a certain technique, the important thing is simply the way you walk. But foot technique does not only refer to the legs, but it involves the harmonious use of the body to form steps." This old man's name is Trong Tam Phon. He is the elder of the sword sect and is also the creator of Tai Chi and Tai Chi sword. Kim SeoJoon rubbed his mouth, his eyebrows frowned, while listening to him speak and thinking, wow, Hercules is like a gym fanatic, but this immortal person, Trong Tam Phon, is truly an escaped legend from this world, so he is also immortal, right? Trong Tam Phon suddenly said, "I will show you an example." After speaking, he immediately lifted his foot. Walking very elegantly, hair blowing in the wind, "It seems like your brother is a teenager," he said. "The air skill that I will teach you next is simply about walking flatly in the air." As he spoke, he demonstrated walking in the air. Wherever his feet went, clouds followed, looking very magical. By exploiting internal energy, you will be able to stop your feet to walk in the air. You will understand just about the rules during the learning process. There's no need to try to understand them now. Kim SeoJoon heard that and was surprised. If a person could move in the air like that, there would no longer be any limitations when moving. The phone then notified again, the daily task has been assigned, calculating appropriate exercises for the user. Here it is, the daily task. Today's daily mission is to maintain a steady speed of 300 meters per hour for 30 seconds, fall from a height of 30 meters or more 20 times. The current mission will change depending on the student's level. Pellets. Once again, what he noticed was the line of falling from a height of 30 meters or more from the top 20 times. Just looking at it makes me want to suffer internal injuries and psychological trauma. But he doubted life, questioned himself. I thought I could do it. Then I sighed deeply. Really, how could I think that was possible? I must be crazy. At that moment, someone pushed the door open. Excuse me, I heard SeoJoon was here. Kim SeoJoon glanced at the other person. Yes, who? As soon as the two people made eye contact, they stopped. Suyin, Mr. SeoJoon. It turned out that the two of them had known each other before. A moment later the two of them went to the dining room. Kim SeoJoon brought water to Suyin. Why are you here, and how did you know I was here? Suyin looked worried. She said, my father told me that he used to work with my father. This girl's name is Sok Suyin. She is Mr. Manchol's daughter. Kim SeoJoon sat down on the chair. She looked at him and asked, have you been in contact with my father recently? Kim SeoJoon, with Mr. Manchol? I think I did when I applied for the hunter test. What's wrong? Suyin's face didn't look very happy. When he asked that, she didn't answer. After hesitating for a moment, she said, I suddenly lost contact with my father, so I thought maybe you knew something. Kim SeoJoon leaned over. What? I was so shocked that I got up from my chair. I couldn't contact Mr. Manchol. Since when? Suyin shook his head. Yesterday, exactly after he left for work. Only a day has passed. Maybe he got drunk and went to sleep somewhere. This has happened before. She looked down at the ground and said, maybe, I hope so. Kim SeoJoon also noticed the unusual, different worry on her face, so she asked, did something else happen? Suyin fidgeted with the cup. Actually, she had an argument with her father yesterday. I told him I wanted to become a professional hunter. Kim SeoJoon panicked. He shouted, professional hunter, but I don't have any powers. Are you planning to use the power of 4.0 technology? Suyin objected. She softly said, no, I have my own strength. I have had my strength for a while, about 1 month. After hearing that, Kim SeoJoon's face was dumbfounded. It's true, no fear, believe it. Suyin continued, so I told him that I wanted to join the Hunter Academy instead of going to university, so my father didn't agree. Well, if you don't know where he went, it's okay. I'm sure he got drunk again and slept on the street somewhere. Kim SeoJoon looked at her sympathetically. He thought, well, now I'll make a living. Being a hunter is much better than working at a company. I understand why Suyin wants to get a job as soon as possible to help her father. What kind of parent would want to put their child in danger? Yes. And that was Mr. Manchol. He had heard many stories related to hunters. I thought he probably didn't like that idea at all. Kim SeoJoon saw her out. Don't forget to say goodbye, be careful, and remember to contact me if anything happens. Okay, good luck, although I think you're okay now. The two waved goodbye, but it seemed like Suyin still had something to say but didn't dare. She just looked back at him and waved back. Kim SeoJoon also realized that he felt sad for her. A moment later, he still looked sad and stood against the wall calling, but he didn't pick up. Because the other person didn't pick up the phone, he put the phone down to look. What was this old man doing? Suyin was very sad for him. Kim SeoJoon frowned and couldn't help but sigh. At this moment, the phone turned off. He put it in his pocket, scratched his head and said, "Well, this isn't the first time this has happened. Min guessed this would have to be a problem for another day. I think the evil spirits have begun to pay attention." Evil stars and black saints, what about Kim SeoJoon? The white-haired girl standing by the window asked. The black-shirted guy paused. Then she said, "We still couldn't find his location." She listened while biting her sore finger. The other guy asked again, "What should we do now?" Kalia turned back to look at him, ordering, at any cost, not to reveal the intrusion of a 10-star dungeon. "Yes," Kalia said, turning completely towards him, proceeding with the plan. The daily mission is to run 30 kilometers, do 1,000 squats, 300 push-ups, 300 sit-ups, 150 pull-ups. The current mission will only be recognized as completed. Performed with an additional weight of at least 1 ton, the weight will vary depending on the student's current level. Kim SeoJoon looked at the notification and repeated, 1 ton. He sighed briefly as he took the small weights and put them in his bag. "If I had known this, I wouldn't have sold the monster corpses, and now I can't continue. Luckily I bought Kib Isis, even though I never intended to use it for this." As he spoke, he opened the bag to put the weights in. When he opened the bag, he didn't know what was inside. Shining brightly to the eyes. As soon as she put it in, the tiny bag immediately felt as heavy as lead. Kim SeoJoon held it but had to strain her body and try her best to still only reach her waist level. He gritted his teeth and grimaced in extreme pain. He tried to squeeze out a few words. With this, he hoped the weight would be greater than 1 ton. But before he could lift it for a minute, he had enough and dropped the other bag to the ground. Kim SeoJoon sat on the ground, unable to breathe. If it was just with Ptum, I'm afraid it would be a bit difficult, but if I increase my strength with mana then I should be able to do it. Damn, I didn't think I would have to go that far. This level is for a mixed problem. This is an exercise or torture. He used his right hand to hold his left hand and shouted, "It must have taken all his strength." After saying that, he immediately flexed his ass muscles, pulled himself up as much as possible even though the bag was still on the ground. Park SeoJoon glanced down from above. She was looking at Kim SeoJoon lying face down on the ground like a stranded corpse. She stood with her arms crossed, looking at the person lying on the ground with her crotch spread out and asked, "What are you doing?" Kim SeoJoon had a huge bag pressing down on his back. He trembled and said, "Help me, Miss SeoJoon." Park SeoJoon looked at him and was speechless. He continued, "This is a bit steamy, take it away from me, otherwise I'll die." Miss SeoJoon sighed in frustration, then bent down to pick up the bag and said, "How many things did you put in here?" Miss SeoJoon picked up the bag and lifted it up, but it still refused to move even 1 millimeter. I don't know how to describe this situation to clearly show the humor of these two people. Finally, she was so annoyed that she clenched her butt muscles and tried her best to lift the tiny bag. It's true that God does not disappoint people. After so many efforts, the bag flew away from him and fell to the ground with a thud. As for Ms. Park SeoJoon and Kim SeoJoon on this side, they were breathing heavily because they were tired. It was truly a hardship that couldn't be helped. Ms. SeoJoon looked at her trembling hands. Then he glanced at the innocent bag next to him, and suddenly Kim SeoJoon raised his head and said, "I thought I was paying my respects to my grandparents, thank you." "Oh, right, Miss SeoJoon, you probably know how tall this building is, right?" She turned to look at him and answered, "It has 5 floors, so I think it's probably 15 meters high." Kim SeoJoon calmly stood in front of Park Minchul and made a firm request, "Mr. Sword Saint, a contest between me and you, what do you think?" Park SeoJoon and Lee Taebom were both shocked and opened their eyes wide when they heard his suggestion. Park Minchul calmly asked again, "What?" Kim SeoJoon continued to say, "If I win, I want you to directly intervene in this accident and not simply help. On the other hand, if I lose, I will drop out of school." Park SeoJoon lost her temper and stammered out, "SeoJoon." She clearly knew he wasn't joking. Kim SeoJoon, however, was not interrupted by Park SeoJoon. He said, "I cannot defeat you honestly, that is obvious, so, if I can give you a wound, even if little, I hope that you will consider it my victory." He heard and squinted his eyes as he hummed in his throat. On the outside, he was steadfast, but in his heart he couldn't help but worry. With the current situation, something had happened to Mr. Manchul since he met that suspicious person. Besides, the organization did not know what to do. Please give me any information because it is confidential information. Kim SeoJoon looked thoughtfully at Park Minchul, but it would be different if it was the Sword Saint, one of the 5 great heroes representing Korea. It was truly a gamble, but maybe this would be the only way I could save Mr. Manchul. After a while, Park Minchul slowly complimented him. How brave. Then he turned around and left, not forgetting to leave behind a sentence. Okay, follow me. Park SeoJoon saw her grandfather agree to Kim SeoJoon's proposal and shouted, Grandpa. Go to that room. Park Minchul pushed the door open with a serious face. Inside, in the middle of the room, is a sword that radiates an energy that not everyone can feel. Park Minchul still expressionlessly picked up that sword and pulled it out. The sword made a few chilling sounds. Lee Taebum's face had changed color since when, he thought to himself, that is. Looking at Park Minchul's back, Lee Taebum thought about the legend of that sword. Legend has it that when Kim Yushin, a general of the Shila kingdom, was still cultivating at Warryong Mountain, he received a treasure, a divine sword along with a military strategy book, and then achieved a resounding victory. Even though it was only a copy of the original Tan Long sword, it was still a masterpiece made by Korea's greatest blacksmith. Lee Taebum thought about that and his eyes widened. There was only one situation that could happen when the principal used the Tan Dragon sword, and that was when he decided to kill his opponent. Lee Taebum grabbed the cold, empty hem of his shirt. The principal had never once used the Blue Dragon sword since the day the disaster officially ended. Then he spoke up and asked Park Minchul to break this gloomy atmosphere. What plans do you have with him? Park Minchul listened quietly and turned back to look at Lee Taebum. He panicked and continued, if anything bad happens, little boy. Let her will. Park Minchul sternly interrupted Lee Taebum's words. Enough said. Even if he flies, runs or even crawls, he is still just a student. I'm sure he wouldn't dare challenge us if we simply carry only determination. Park Minchul radiated a dangerous black aura around him. He lowered his voice, so we should at least entertain him seriously, right? Returning to Kim SeoJoon and Park SeoJoon was so angry that he shouted, SeoJoon, you don't have to go to this extent. Even though she was still shouting, her tone contained undisguised enthusiasm and worry. I will try to ask him. If I ask him personally, maybe he will. No way. Kim SeoJoon closed his eyes and gently shook his head, interrupting Park SeoJoon's words. He stood facing her and said calmly, I really appreciate your opinion, but this will have consequences for the future, Kim SeoJoon said while thinking in his heart, unable to be sure of what happened. Something like this will no longer happen. He looked down at his hand and silently made up his mind. I don't know why Mr. Manchul suddenly disappeared, but what if I was the reason? In that case, things like this would continuously continue. Kim SeoJoon clenched his hands and thought, I still don't have enough strength or authority to protect those around me. That's why the Sword Saint will act directly if he touches anyone related to Kim SeoJoon. I need to involve Mr. Sword Saint in this matter to engrave this political opinion deeply into everyone's minds. Then Kim SeoJoon gently told Kim SeoJoon that he would return after winning. The two looked at each other for a while. Kim SeoJoon's steadfast eyes looked straight into Park SeoJoon's worried eyes, wanting her to feel secure. Park SeoJoon's arm raised to grab Kim SeoJoon's shirt suddenly stopped in midair and slowly dropped. She hesitated. You have to win. Then in the room where the duel between Kim SeoJoon and Park Minchul took place, the two people, one holding the staff, the other holding the sword, stood silently. Around everyone gathered but no one dared to breathe loudly. The atmosphere was tense. Straighter than ever. Park Minchul then warned, if you happen to think that I will go easy on SeoJoon, now is the right time to stop. Kim SeoJoon also firmly replied, there is no such thing, I just hope that you will keep your promise. He pulled out the shining sword, reflecting back on his face, not sparing a word of praise for him. I recognized his spirit. Park Minchul decisively pulled the sword out of its scabbard. He radiated murderous aura, pointed his sharp sword at him and said in a low voice, I will give you a move. Kim SeoJoon nodded, gradually bending down to gain momentum for the first attack. He swallowed his saliva nervously and thought, even if he was a sword saint, the current me would still be able to endure it for a while. Kim SeoJoon's legs faltered, then he immediately jumped up and walked away. The staff in Kim SeoJoon's hand emitted a stream of power that covered his entire body. Kim SeoJoon gritted his teeth and thought, I will go all out from the beginning. Indeed, his eyes sparkled, he powerfully swung his hand, and the staff struck with terrible force. But a clang rang out. Park Minchul's whole body barely moved after the attack just now. Kim SeoJoon opened her pupils wide as if she couldn't believe her eyes. Park Minchul calmly raised his sword and gently blocked his attack without using any strength. While he was still bewildered floating in the air, he asked in a low voice, "Is that all you have?" Park Min-chul frowned tightly, his pupils flashing. With just a flick of his hand, he was thrown a long distance. Kim SeoJoon gritted his teeth and frowned. Suddenly something came and made him pale. It turned out that it was Park Min-chul who rushed forward and swung his sword to slash down. Luckily, Kim SeoJoon, with his agile movements, dodged that fatal blow. Before he could react, another attack followed. The sword in Park Min-chul's hand slashed down non-stop. Each blow unleashed all its strength. Kim SeoJoon tried to defend and thought, hit a little bit. Park Min-chul's face was cold and serious, not showing any emotion, his hand still continuously swinging the sword. Kim SeoJoon looked at Park Min-chul's every move and thought to himself, he's serious, every attack he makes, every move he makes kills me as if it were the finishing blow. It felt like Park Min-chul's whole body was emitting terrible green energy from the sword, he exclaimed subconsciously, throwing his sword in confusion. Park Min-chul directly swung his sword. This time the power was so great that it reached even the people watching. Lee Taebum reacted quickly and pushed Park Seo-eun behind to avoid that source of power. He let out a loud cry, and Park Seo-eun was so scared that he hugged his body and screamed. Regaining her composure, she worriedly shouted his name, SeoJoon. Kim SeoJoon gritted his teeth and continued to resist Park Min-chul's every attack. Watching him forcefully strike, he thought to himself, this is a hero among great geniuses, a master of masters, a bright star among all stars, the Sword Saint. Park Min-chul landed, the floor around him cracking as the sword flew upward. Immediately after that, his sharp blade was swung in mid-air, lightning-fast attacks aimed straight at Kim SeoJoon. Fortunately, he still had enough strength to hold on. Park Min-chul thought to himself as he acted, this kid, just a few months ago was still a kid who couldn't blow his nose cleanly. He remembered the training sessions he had with Kim SeoJoon before and continued to ponder, even though I felt this brat's potential from our previous encounter, he still just stood out compared to the others. Just a student's level. Kim SeoJoon's face was covered in sweat and he fiercely fought off Park Min-chul's attacks with just the staff in his hand. Wherever the tip of the sword grazed, Kim SeoJoon blocked it, his face seemed calmer than before, perhaps somewhat familiar with the previous moves. Park Min-chul attacked and evaluated what we are witnessing right now, right at this moment. His eyes became dangerously bright again. Kim SeoJoon's staff was suddenly grabbed by Park Min-chul, and the already unfavorable situation became even more unfavorable. But he did not surrender, immediately swung the staff hard, using its power to knock Park Min-chul out. He looked at him and continued to think, with every passing moment, this kid tries to develop himself more and more. The two weapons collided with each other, making a loud clang. Kim SeoJoon was stunned for a moment. Then Park Min-chul waved his hand. The surroundings were immediately blown away by a powerful stream of energy and even Kim SeoJoon was no exception. That power was like a wave covering everything in front of him. Park Min-chul maintained his stance to strike. His eyes sagged and frowned as if he was calculating something. He looked towards Kim SeoJoon's staff and thought, I felt a bit strange about that weapon from the beginning, but it was still quite surprising that it could still withstand my aura quite well. Park Min-chul pursed his lips in contemplation. This contest would have ended a long time ago if it weren't for that weapon. I didn't intend to use all my strength, but... Park Min-chul gently dragged the scabbard on the floor, and in an instant he disappeared to Kim SeoJoon's place, face to face and said, should I put in a little more effort? After he finished speaking, he swung his sword and knocked him away, so strong that it made Kim SeoJoon scream. Park Min-chul stood silently after performing the move just now, while Kim SeoJoon was knocked away a distance. The power seemed to kill someone, causing Kim SeoJoon to spit out a painful mouthful of blood. The wooden floor under his feet cracked into a straight line. Kim SeoJoon fell to his knees, breathing heavily, thinking, damn, I was too cocky, I thought I could do this just because I beat a few students. Other promising members. Park Min-chul slowly walked towards him while he was still lost in his own thoughts. However, students are still just students, they are still immature, inexperienced and have not had to face challenges yet. The cruelty of life. Kim SeoJoon with blood on his mouth looked up at Park Min-chul and thought, I failed to see that truth. Kneeling before Park Min-chul, Kim SeoJoon felt smaller than ever. His body seemed to radiate a dangerous source of murderous aura in his cold face. Sweat poured down Kim SeoJoon's face, he sighed and thought, I can feel the difference between the holy sword and myself, I feel a bit annoyed that he still hasn't given his all. Then he propped the staff on the floor, stood up in one fell swoop and swung the staff strongly at Park Min-chul. His nimble body bounced back after that move. Once again, he used all his strength to bounce back, the staff stuck to the sword making a crisp sound. He made up his mind, he wanted it. Seeing Kim SeoJoon so steadfast, he asked, "How could you think of challenging me when this is all you have?" Then he swung his sword again, knocking Kim SeoJoon away. He stood steadfastly, his eyes full of thought, confidence and the power to repel all enemies just by mentioning his name. "I can't help but admit this, I admire the Sword Saint, and I wanted to become like him. I admired his strength, but more than that, I admired the way he achieved that strength. I was too confident in his reputation." Vainly named transcendence. The two continued to attack each other. Kim SeoJoon successfully blocked Park Min-chul's powerful sword without being knocked back. He continued to think, and unconsciously underestimated the Sword Saint. He was still weaker than the Sword Saint, much weaker. Once again beaten until he bled, but Kim SeoJoon's eyes were still very determined. He continued to attack Park Min-chul, but one day, he will reach a new peak, even higher than him. I want to surpass him. His will to win reached its peak, his pupils turned blue, and then he was stunned when he discovered something. While still rushing towards Park Min-chul, he looked down at the staff and thought, "I don't feel the weight in my hand anymore. Something is very strange. Every step I take forward feels real. How strange, this feeling." Then Park Min-chul landed a finishing blow right on Kim SeoJoon's chest. Fresh blood immediately splattered. Kim SeoJoon opened his eyes wide and gritted his teeth as he felt immense pain covering his entire body. He was frozen and unable to react, while on the other hand, Park SeoJoon and Lee Taebum were also stunned when they witnessed everything. Park SeoJoon screamed, "SeoJoon!" People standing around also started talking. "You, as expected, but he's also amazing, being able to resist the principal for that long." Standing in front of Park Min-chul, Kim SeoJoon's voice became smaller. "I hope you will not go back on that promise." After finishing his sentence, his body fell helplessly to the floor, fainting. Park SeoJoon at the same time ran towards Kim SeoJoon. Looking at him, even though he fainted, he was still very steadfast. An unpredictable light flashed in Park Min-chul's eyes. No matter what people around him said and Park SeoJoon looked at him, his face did not change, it was always cold and pensive. Park SeoJoon knelt down and watched Kim SeoJoon pass away with a face full of worry. At this time, in a certain cave, there was a person running quickly. It was Uncle Man-chul. On his shoulders he was carrying a man. As he ran and panted he said, panting, "Damn, I shouldn't have followed you if I knew this would happen, I was blinded. Because of your money." Dharma Saint was carried by Uncle Man-chul on his back and said calmly, "I did not expect such a sudden disturbance. If I had known, I would have gone alone. I am truly sorry." Even though I heard that, Uncle Man-chul was surprised. Satisfied but still turned back to console, "Come on, what are you talking about? Don't worry too much, maybe people have noticed and are now sending people to rescue us." "That won't happen." Phop Tan's voice was light and hopeless, making Man-chul startled. Phop Tan continued, "I specifically asked the association president not to reveal any information to outsiders under any circumstances. I was stupid to keep this a secret and now make us suffer the consequences. This is such a heavy result." His voice became lower and lower, filled with despair. "Maybe, it will be difficult for us to get out of here." Uncle Man-chul mysteriously smiled, he was calm. "Well, I'm sure that guy will find a way out of this mess." Phop Kiem asked in confusion, "What do you mean?" and what he was talking about. "Who's that?" There was one person. When he said this, Uncle Man-chul's face seemed to light up with hope. "An idiot boy." Kim SeoJoon opened his eyes in surprise. He quickly sat up without paying attention to his injury. Seeing that, Park SeoJoon worriedly asked, "Are you awake, SeoJoon?" He didn't bother to answer her question but just asked in panic, "How long have I been in a coma?" Park SeoJoon was scared by his loud words but still answered, "Not for long, however, I'm afraid." He didn't have time to lie there anymore, the room was filled with only her voice. Suddenly, the door opened, the Sword Saint, Park Min-chul calmly looked into the room. Looking at his stern, cold face, the subordinates behind him were immediately afraid and did not dare to say anything more. Kim SeoJoon was a bit startled when she saw who came. Park Min-chul frowned and sighed. He threw something to him and said, "Here, take it." Kim SeoJoon looked closely at the sparkling sword in his hand and thought in surprise, "Tan Dragon Sword." Park SeoJoon and his subordinates all panicked and called out, "Grandfather, sir." Kim SeoJoon looked at the sword in his hand, full of doubts and cautiously asked, "Why did you give it to me?" Park Min-chul calmly replied, "Don't be noisy, I'm just fulfilling my promise." He seriously explained, "If there is that sword as a sign, everyone in the association will know what to do. I would rather let you do what you want than have to solve it yourself." After that, Park Min-chul also told him to do it well, making Kim SeoJoon still not understand why he did that and took precautions. He asked again, "Do you really want to give it to me?" Of course, Park Min-chul did not give it to him but reminded him to remember to return it after finishing work. A high-rise building with a modern appearance appeared. It was the Hunter Association, a government agency that managed and supervised hunters and was also a for-profit organization established by hunters professionally to serve their interests. Lee Tae-bum, president of the Korean Professional Hunter Association, is currently nervously facing what is before him. Look at the sparkling blue dragon sword placed on the table. Lee Tae-bum looked at him suspiciously as if asking, "I'm going crazy, why is the dragon sword here?" Kim SeoJoon sat opposite and whispered, "I didn't think I would meet the association president." He decided to introduce himself first. "It's nice to meet you. My name is Kim SeoJoon. I came without notice because I need to ask something." Lee Tae-bum's face was expressionless but inside he was screaming. "Not long after the Black Saint personally came to me to threaten me, meaning, asking me to transfer 3 billion won to this guy Kim SeoJoon, and now even the Sword Saint. Remember when the Black Saint came looking for you in a hurry, only said one sentence, quickly transferred 3 billion won to Kim SeoJoon, and then disappeared." Lee Tae-bum didn't understand what was going on at that time. He could only hold on in vain. "What? Hey, please wait a moment." While he was thinking, who was this person? Suddenly Kim SeoJoon spoke up and told him some news that startled him. 4 days ago, a man named Sok Min-chul went missing after entering the dungeon as requested of someone. Seeing that Lee Tae-bum was paying attention, he continued seriously, "Because before entering the dungeon, it was mandatory to notify the association. Please tell me which dungeon he entered and with whom." Remembering Sok Min-chul's back before leaving and not forgetting to tell anyone, "Please don't reveal it to anyone," Lee Tae-bum felt guilty, nervously looked up at him and whispered, "Why is this a problem?" So he found a reason to buy time first. "Before answering your question, we need to verify that this dragon sword is real," Kim SeoJoon generously said. "Go ahead, however, he is not stupid to let it slip. Your trap should continue, but I would appreciate it if you could quickly answer my question." Lee Tae-bum seriously disagreed and replied, "I still think we need to prioritize checking the sword first." Kim SeoJoon immediately launched a decisive blow and threatened if an incident occurred due to delay. "Will you be able to take responsibility?" Lee Tae-bum gulped, hesitantly looking at the sword that was emitting a dazzling light throughout the room. He placed his hand on his forehead, helplessly thinking, "Damn it. If that is the Sword Saint's intention, then there is no other way." Thinking so, Lee Tae-bum immediately surrendered and said, "Yes, the Magic Saint is investigating the 10-star dungeon break-in at my request. Recently he found a clue and went to the 6-star dungeon to secretly investigate." Kim SeoJoon was startled and surprised. He wondered, wait, didn't the Dark Saint say that the Church of Justice was the one behind the 10th dungeon sabotage? There was something shady about this. He immediately stood up and said, "Thank you very much for providing the information." Kim SeoJoon was about to step out of the room. When he grabbed the door handle, he suddenly stopped. Kim SeoJoon turned his head and asked, "Oh, by the way, can I ask this?" He held out the sword and said something that no one expected. "Can I use the dragon sword as collateral for a loan from the association?" The phone rang, and the other end of the line saw him answer the phone and quickly asked, "Brother, has my father contacted you yet?" Kim SeoJoon seriously replied, "No, but he thought of a place, maybe he was there." He thought that the dungeon he entered at someone else's request had a problem. This news brought a shock to Sok Soo-yeon. She panicked, could no longer keep calm and asked, "So what should we do now? Is my father about to die?" Kim SeoJoon recalls, Soo-yeon's mother passed away 11 years ago due to the dungeon being broken. She sacrificed herself to save Soo-yeon. Hearing her cry and ask, "What about you on the phone?" he thought to himself, because Soo-yeon didn't want the monsters to take away his precious people again, maybe that's why he wanted to become a hunter. At this time, Sok Soo-yeon still didn't know what to do. She cried and wondered how she could live alone. "Don't worry," Kim SeoJoon spoke up to help her calm down. He assured me that he would definitely bring him back. Looking at the ended call on the screen, Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, according to the association president, the Dharma Saint and Manchula Jesse had entered a dungeon with 6-star dryad monsters. His steps gradually became faster, his thoughts continued to connect. Even though the Dharma Saint was now old and sick, he was still one of the 5 powerhouses. There must be some reason for them to be trapped in the 6-star dungeon. Perhaps it was a trap set up by the Justice Church to eliminate the Holy Dharma. Kim SeoJoon dialed the phone while walking, continuing to think, the Church of Justice is closely monitoring this matter. They will immediately take action if anyone intervenes. In this situation, no one can help. Surname. Except for me. Thinking about this, the phone screen showed a notification that money had been transferred from the Korean Hunter Association worth 500 million won. Kim SeoJoon excitedly shouted, "Great, here it is." He thought to himself, after asking for the dragon's sword as collateral, the president refused and thought he was joking, but when he learned that he was serious, he eventually accepted despite being very confused. I remember at that time I awkwardly suggested, well, instead of lending, frankly speaking, I rely on relationships to force the price. No, write a record, I mortgage this, for 500 million. Lee Taebum's face froze, his mouth opened wide, wondering, Sword Saint, why did you give the dragon sword to this person? Thinking of this, Kim SeoJoon guiltily comforted himself, it will be okay, right? Well, after all, the Sword Saint told me to do whatever I want with it. He held the phone and thought to himself, that's a bargain considering the value of the sword. This should be enough for me to buy that equipment. I'm preparing to enter a place where even the saints can't escape, so it is necessary to be fully prepared. The system displays a notification, calculating the value, 500 million won. Kim SeoJoon decisively clicked buy, thinking to herself, I've been eyeing it since last time. The weapon immediately appeared before his eyes, introduction system, copy, Gungnir. Kim SeoJoon breathed a sigh of relief. He entered the front door and decided, let's go. The shabby forest appeared, the scene was strangely dark and strange. Kim SeoJoon walked deep inside with a glowing spear behind him, leaning against a tree, he lamented, seriously, there are many species. So annoying. Kim SeoJoon remembered the image of a tree-like monster and thought, Dryad, even though it is only a 6-star monster, hunting them is still very difficult because they look no different from a normal tree. He nervously thought to himself, I'll be in danger if I'm suddenly attacked or surrounded by large numbers, but I also can't go around challenging them one by one. Kim SeoJoon closed his eyes and thought, should I try to feel them? Thinking about it, he immediately used his skill to sense everything around him. Rows of trees seemed to appear before him. Suddenly he stopped. A certain tree gives Kim SeoJoon an indescribable feeling of strangeness. He slowly approached it thinking, on the outside, it looked no different from normal trees, but doubt kept creeping into his heart. Kim SeoJoon pulled out the weapon he had just bought, so should he try it? He held it up and decided that he also needed to test the power of the new weapon. Light enveloped the tip of Gungnir's nose. Kim SeoJoon immediately launched Gungnir towards the tree. When Gungnir was about to crash into the tree, suddenly the tree appeared a face and screamed. It ducked and dodged Gungnir. Kim SeoJoon exclaimed in surprise, did it dodge my attack? Gungnir kept rushing forward. I thought it was going away, but unexpectedly Gungnir turned his head and stabbed towards the tree again. Luckily this time, the tree didn't notice, so it was quickly penetrated. Kim SeoJoon looked a little surprised at the weapon he had bought. He excitedly exclaimed, wow! The image of a new weapon appeared with a dazzling light, Gungnir, the spear that Odin used to strike Ymir, the first giant, and create the 9 worlds. Kim SeoJoon was a bit surprised at the description of the spear that Odin used to dismember Ymir, the first giant, and create the 9 worlds. Looking at the ruins Gungnir left behind spread out on the ground, Kim SeoJoon said helplessly, I know it will be strong, but a copy this strong is a bit too much. He thought to himself, look at its destructive ability, it must be forged from superior materials, it reminds me of Longinus. Kim SeoJoon raised his hand and wondered, could it return on its own? Watching Gungnir begin to move on the ground, he thought in surprise, this seems to work. Kim SeoJoon put more strength into his hands, his face narrowed in concentration, if only he had increased his mana a little. Sure enough, Gungnir flew up. It rushed forward and landed right in his hand. Because of its heavy weight, Gungnir almost made Kim SeoJoon fall. He sat on the ground tiredly and lamented, it's too difficult, now I know it has the ability to return, but doing so is quite a waste of mana, like this at most, it can only be used twice, no, in battle, once is enough to run out of charms. Looking at the sparkling weapon in his hand, Kim SeoJoon thought to himself, according to legend, Gungnir can automatically return, but copies always have their limitations. He comforted himself in his heart, with my current level, I can only call it back once, but there will definitely be a day when I can freely use this ability. Until then this ability is just like a disposable item, he thought to himself, it's a good thing he mortgaged the dragon sword. While Kim SeoJoon was finding a way to live for himself, if the Sword Saint wanted to kill him, he should probably throw Gungnir to gain some time to escape, when suddenly a tree root appeared behind him, intending to attack him. With quick reactions and extensive experience, Kim SeoJoon easily dodged its attacks and even added Gungnir's launch. After settling the matter, seeing that he shouldn't stay any longer, Kim SeoJoon quickly ran in another direction. He thought to himself, where are you?